Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for yet more dedicated legacy action. Today we're playing a card that is near and dear to my heart, and that card is Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas. Once upon a time I had a homebrew deck with this card that got me onto the Pro Tour, and I got to play in the first ever modern Pro Tour because I had my own little brew with Tezzeret. So that's, one of the reasons I like this card, but I just think it's a quite cool design. So what does this deck that we're playing do? Well, we're kind of on the prison spectrum of things. So we've got these cards. We've got Chalice of the Void, Leyline and the Void, and Ensnaring Bridge. So this is supposed to suppress graveyards, 1-drops, and creatures attacking us. Then we have 6 Force of Will effects in our main deck to try and sort of deal with any things that this doesn't catch. And then we've got Glint-Nest Cranes and Baleful Strix to come up the ground. Now Baleful Strix is quite a common card you see in Legacy because it's very good. It usually is going to trade 2 for 1 by drawing a card. It's also an artifact, so it can be found with our Tezzeret. Glint-Nest Crane, on the other hand, is a card that I don't see that many people playing. And, I can see why. It's not the most exciting looking thing on the front of it. It's a 2-mana 1/3 flyer that impulses for an artifact when it comes into play, which is actually a pretty good rate, to be honest. Like a 1/3 flyer is nothing to be scoffed at. It's a reasonable blocker. It can buy you turns against some of the scary things in the format. And finding artifacts is kind of what we want our deck to do. So we've also got these Thirst of Knowledge, which can draw some artifacts and discard some artifacts. We can hopefully use this to power through our deck and assemble one of our combos. So we have 2 combos in this deck. We have a single Helm of Obedience to go with our Leylines, and we have the Sword of the Meek Thopter Foundry combo. So what this combo does is every time you pay 1 and sacrifice the Sword of the Meek, it comes back and makes a Thopter. So you just pay X, make X 1/1s. Because the Sword of the Meek jumps back whenever a 1/1 creature enters the battlefield under your control. So Baleful Strix will bring this back, which is pretty cool. And if we stick this onto a Glint-Nest Crane, it can happily block a Delta of Secrets and survive, or a Dragon's Rage Channeler, which is not nothing. Now, to support this, our mana base is a little bit unusual, I would say, because we've got these 4 Ancient Tombs to try and power up the Chalice of the Voids and also play early Planeswalkers and Bridges. But these don't cast our Baleful Strixes, which is something that might come back to bite us. But I've played various Tezzeret decks in years gone by, and this has worked out more or less fine. The only double pip spell we have to play early on really is the Baleful Strix, so we can move our game around that. We've got a few artifact lands. We've got 1 Seat of the Synod, 1 Vault of Whispers, and a couple of these blue-black come into play tap lands that are indestructible artifacts. So indestructible, both our colours. Seems like something we would want in a world of wastelands, but also the fact that our Glint-Nest Cranes find them and our Tezzeret finds them and our Thirst of Knowledge can discard them is kind of the synergy going there. And it does give us another artifact to sacrifice to a Thopter Foundry if we're in a bit of dire need. So as for our blue card count, we've got all of these. We've got these 2, we've got the Tezzeret, the Thirsts, and all these. So I think our blue count is pretty good here as well. So that's the main deck. Now the sideboard, we're trying to shore up our angles of attack. So if we're worried about creatures, we've got a whole load of removal. Now, this might look like I've gone slightly overboard on the removal, but there are a lot of creature decks at the moment, especially with the new White Stompy deck. I just wanted to make sure I had the tools to beat that. Now, we can still get clocked by the actual initiative ticking up and doming us for 5 every time it cycles round. However, we're hoping that our combo here that gains us life can deal with that, as well as our ability to counterspell some things. So we've got 2 more Force of Negation for when we need to hit decks that are relying on playing spells, whether that's Sneak and Show or Storm or Reanimator. These are going to be good. Removal is pretty self-explanatory. We have a Cursed Totem, which is a card that I don't think you see enough in Legacy, but it's quite powerful. It's 2 mana, Pithing Needle for all creatures. So that whether it's Grizzlebrand or Elves, this also shuts off mana abilities. So it's creature null rod, so it stops elves from being able to really do anything. It stops these Fiend Artisan decks. It stops Elvish Reclaimer and other Reliquary decks. I think this card is very good and should see a lot more play than it currently does. We've got a couple of Sorcerer's Spyglass, which is going to be naming things, anything ranging from Planeswalkers to Grindstones. We have a single Witchbane Orb. I don't think the Curses text on it is going to be useful, but the Hexproof is. So this is going to allow us to put this into play, and we can just sit behind this and defend it, and that will stop us being able to get Tendrils or Grindstoned out. We'll have a couple of Engineered Explosives to blow up 1-drops. Our deck does not have 1-drops, so I'll be one-sided when we get to do this, and it can also blow up other problem permanents that may arise in the course of our games. That's pretty much it. I haven't played Tezzeret deck for a while, so this deck was it's definitely going to need some fine tuning after today, but this deck used to be pretty good once upon a time. I used to play it regularly at a local Legacy event and always came out with a positive record with it. I thought it was very good. It's very straightforward, but has a lot of card advantage in it, which is something that I'm a big fan of. All right, just before we jump into the league, can I just say that if you're enjoying my channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And if you've only just found my channel, why not subscribe so you don't miss any more of my videos? I do 5 videos a week. All right, let's jump into a League of Legacy with Blue-Black Tezzeret. Okay, so we're on the play for game 1, and this is our opening hand. It does allow us to make Glint-Nest Crane, and if we can, it makes sort of the Meek on 1, Glint-Nest Crane on 2, and if we can find a Thopter Foundry and a black source by then, we can make our combo and start making lots of guys. Alternatively, we can find a Tezzeret to dig for it. This isn't very exciting to me. I think we're going to mulligan it because we have 2 Swords of the Meek, we don't have access to black mana, we'll be relying on this Glint-Nest Crane to do a lot and we have no protection. Generally we are a control-y deck, so I think we should mulligan. This hand does not look very good either, to be honest with you. But we do have the Glint-Nest Crane to do some stuff with. I don't really want to mulligan too much more. I think we'll keep this on the back of the Leyline being good, but this is, if we get our Glint-Nest Crane discarded, we're going to be bad, but at least we have our mana. So we keep this, so we can throw back Swamp. Put this into play. See if we get a free win. I think Leyline in the Void is so powerful right now that you can keep it blind and be relatively okay in a lot of matchups. It's very rare that it doesn't do anything. Okay, an Underground Sea. That suggests to me that our opponent is playing some sort of Doomsday deck, as a general rule. Now, the one thing we can get caught out on here is if our opponent plays Dark Ritual into Opposition Agent. They normally don't have that main deck. That's a sideboard thing, as a general rule. So if I'm expecting my opponent to be playing Doomsday, then I want to get non-basics. But if our opponent is playing a Death Shadow deck and they just happen to start on an Underground Sea, then we want to get basics. I think it's free to get basics here for what we're trying to achieve. So we'll get these two and we'll play this out. We'll get this Mistvault Bridge and put them in any order. So bottom, bottom, bottom. Not the most exciting thing to find, but at least it hit, so it drew a card. We will need to find some action. We can't really afford to keep drawing lands here. Because we're a Chalice deck, we don't have access to our cantrips like Brainstorm, so we just have raw card advantage from our cards instead. They are weaker than Brainstorm, obviously, but we get to play Chalice and we do get to draw a lot of cards. So like a single Thirst for Knowledge will completely put us out of where we are now and change up our hand. That's kind of like our version of Brainstorm where it fixes our hand for us. Inquisition of Kozilek. Well, sure. Swing and a miss. A Mishra's Bauble. Okay, this is looking more like a Death Shadow deck, but the basic island is unusual. What have we drawn here? An Ensnaring Bridge. So I think we start off by attacking. Our opponent can easily play a Daze at the moment. So if I want to play my Ensnaring Bridge, I either need to play off of an Ancient Tomb or wait a turn. I think we'll just play off the Ancient Tomb. So our opponent knows our whole hand at this point from the Inquisition and the Mishra's Bauble Sea in the bridge. Okay, if they Force of Will this, it means they are definitely a Death Shadow deck. Yeah, okay. Predict. Oh, okay. That is an unusual inclusion. Our opponent's deck could be some sort of blue-black, more Delver slanted rather than, okay, Baleful Strix rather than the sort of stereotypical Death Shadow. Dueling Birds and Ensnaring Bridge. Well, if they countered the first one, they'll probably counter the second one. Or if they might not counter it, but it's going to be good at least. Looks like we got a second Force of Will. Sure. So 3 Force of Will's gone. So resolving spells should be relatively easy to do from here on. The reason I haven't played the Mistvault Bridge out yet is because if I get a Thirst for Knowledge, this is a way that I can discard just one card. And if I have a Tezzeret, I can put this into play when necessary. So this combined with Tezzeret gives you an indestructible 5/5, which in some matchups is going to be very useful. Fortunately, we've drawn a lot of land this game. Stoneforge Mystic. Okay. So our opponent is like an Esper Stoneblade type deck. A Cauldron Complete. Alrighty then. Let's see if we can draw something that isn't a land. I would like to cast a Glint-Nest Crane, please. What are you going to find me? One option. Sure. Bottom. So we're going to play this Mistvault Bridge out now, in case we need an indestructible 5/5, which could be a thing we need soon, although Cauldra, it exiles creatures, so that's not going to be the most useful, but it can trade with it at least. I think we have to pass here. I think we're a little bit behind at this moment in time. But if our opponent is trying to win the game using regular combat damage, our sideboard is very good against that. Sure, so this is a Cauldra. I think we will just take the 5 this turn, and then think about blocking and soaking damage in subsequent turns. Leyline in the Void. This is not really the one we're looking for here. Playing the Polluted Delta here will be a little bit awkward because it will cost us a life, which will change the clock slightly. So we do want to play the cards out in our hand to avoid getting, to make sure that when we get our Ensnaring Bridge, there's still one more Ensnaring Bridge in the deck. So we want to keep our hand as empty as possible. So I think this turn we will block here and soak damage. We do need to draw something that's not a land, or at least something that's useful in the near future. Cannery Ruins. That qualifies as useful. So this will get us an Ensnaring Bridge next turn. But we will take the damage off of the Germ token this turn, I think. Or do we have to do that actually? We can probably block here. Just save us a little bit of damage. I'd like to put an Ensnaring Bridge onto my library, please. So we've seen 3 Force of Wills out of our opponent so far. So the odds of them having another one are very slim here. 1, 2, 3. Can I have an Ensnaring Bridge, please? Excellent. And we'll play this out, and nothing can attack us this turn. And now hopefully we sit behind this until we get to draw our Tezzeret, and then we can plus it a few times and drain our opponent out at some stage, or we can assemble the combo, attack with our things, play the card from our hand. So we've got a lot of options here to how to close the game out, as long as what we have in play stays in play. Now, Teferi is pretty bad for us, because this will bounce our Ensnaring Bridge, and then they can attack for 5, 6, 7, which is our exact life total. So we will concede the game. Okay, that didn't go perfectly, to be honest. So we would like some removal in this matchup. And I think the Sorcerer's Spyglasses are going to be useful here. I don't know how good this Leyline in the Void is going to be. I didn't get the impression our opponent was really looking at doing anything in those regards to us. So these can all kill the Cauldra. Curse Totem can shut down the Stoneforge Mystic if we want to. We have Force of Negations, which would be good. This can kill Teferi as well, so we want this. Question is, how many Force of Will effects do we want in our deck at this point? So if we were to cut these Force of Wills and bring in some other artifacts, there's another Ensnaring Bridge there. So if we cut all these, that gives us 4 slots. So we could bring in some Spyglasses and some Engineered Explosives. That's an option we have. The Explosives seem pretty good here. I have a lot of 2-drops. But I'm inclined to bring in these Force of Negations, or keep these Force of Negations in, over the Force of Wills, because we can cast them. And the thing we're most worried about later on is things like Teferi. Is this good enough? Or do we just want Force of Wills in case we have to pitch some blue cards? I don't really want to get into a counterfire. I'm happy to play these in my deck as cancels. So I think we'll submit like this. So this is a turn 2 Ensnaring Bridge. And then we have lots of Tezzerets. Many Tezzerets. Put this one out. So the forces also help you empty your hand for the purposes of Ensnaring Bridge. I think if our opponent tries to discard us here, we are incentivized to even Force of Negation here. A Ponder. I'm not going to counter that. So it's over to us. They did not shuffle off their Ponder, which is a little bit worrying. Okay, so we're going to play the Chalice out around a daze that I don't think our opponent has, but I think I'm going to play it like this anyway. This shuts off so many cards in their deck. This has to get a counterspell most of the time. Yep, here we go. So they've exiled a Ponder for this. Okay, so they could play a Stoneforge Mystic this turn. Or they could play nothing. Let's sacrifice this. This can go and get us a basic island. We'll cast. So an Ensnaring Bridge should hopefully keep Cauldras out of my face. And we have a counterspell this time for the Teferi. Got another Force of Will. Casting a Brainstorm, sure. They do have the fetch land though, so even though this is a Brainstorm trying to find something, it's not like it's costing them their ability to fill their hand. Okay, so the second Force of Will is down. So we can't cast this for free because it's not our opponent's turn. So we have to let this go. But we do have another 3 more Ensnaring Bridges on our deck. So I feel okay with that. And we have our Tezzeret to go and find them. Our opponent has discarded a lot of cards to make these things happen. Or exile them, sorry. So what have we got here? A 3-drop. I do not want to play against Teferi. Exile that. We will counter that using our Force of Negation. Sure. And then we can hopefully untap into a Tezzeret and play this out to play around days. Play out my boy, Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas. +1. Draw a card from the top 5. Let's have a look and see what artifacts we have. Just to see to the Synod. Sure, we can put them back on any order. Not that it matters. Oakley dokley. So we can start making 5/5s if we want to, or we can just keep drawing lots of cards. So we've got a pretty strong card advantage engine here. And it's not something to be prismatic ending because our opponent only has 3 colours in their deck. Teferi. Okay, so this can bounce our Tezzeret if they want to. Okay, they're going to bounce our Vault of Whispers. This is so I can't attack and kill the Teferi down. First up, let's have a look. Chalice of the Void and Baleful Strix, both pretty good. I would like the Chalice, please. And then put them on the bottom. They're getting changed up soon anyway. So I'm going to be shuffling. So let's play out our Chalice for 1. And we'll play out this Vault of Whispers. Play out our Glint-Nest Crane. So we don't want to crack our fetch because we know the bottom cards. We don't really want them shuffled into the rest of our deck right now. And because they have white removal, an indestructible guy is not going to be useful, but a little bird is probably going to be pretty good here. And that'll do. So we can currently drain our opponent out for 2, 4, 6 with what's on board right now, which isn't a lot. But something. Displace a kitten. Okay, so our opponent is actually kitten combo. I see. Okay, so this is, I think this is the combo assembled here, right? Because this blinks the Teferi, the Mishra's Bauble comes in, they bounce the Bauble, and then they replay it. So basically they get to draw their deck here, if they want to. The question is, what is their win condition from this point? And is it something that's stopped by Chalice of the Void? So they can draw their deck this turn, and then next turn possibly do something to kill us. I don't think they can kill us this turn, so we might get a turn where we can deal with our opponent's thing. So we can just yield through this turn. Okay, so they just went for the bounce of the Chalice here. So they don't actually have the ability to go off. So now they've told us that they're playing a kitten combo deck. We can play out our Chalice of the Void on 0, which stops their kitten combo, which is not something I mind very much here. So I think what we're going to do here is turn our Vault of Whispers into this, and then the Vault of Whispers can attack them, and this, because this doesn't have flying, this can attack Teferi. So now we've got some more choices here. We can play out the Chalice. They bounced it on 1, which makes me think that they really need us. They really need it in play. They really need this not in play. So I think I'm going to play the Chalice back on 1 rather than on 0. They're willing to avoid just playing their whole deck or drawing the whole deck just to get this Chalice off the board. I have to imagine this is going to be good. And we can Force of Negation this if they have a counter spell, because we can hardcast it. We can also counter the Teferi if they have another one. This does mean our Tezzeret can get attacked down by the kitten this turn. But if they do that, then they are dead on the backswing because I'll have 2 5/5s. Who's the control and who's the beatdown now? So it's best just to hold up this Force of Negation. And I did say I was bringing it in just to play it as a cancel. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing this turn. Okay, they've just conceded. Alright, so we can go to sideboarding now. Now I know that they're a kitten combo deck. Does that change what I want? That makes me think that maybe our Force of Wills are going to be better than I thought they were. And the Source of Spyglass named Teferi is also an option. So they're kind of like kitten combo with the Stoneforge. So I don't think we want the Toxic Deluge here. So we can change the Toxic Deluge for a Source of Spyglass we can put on Teferi. I don't know if we need these other things, to be honest with you. I think our setup here is just fine, right? Yeah, I think this is fine. I don't think kitten combo is the strongest thing you can really be doing in Legacy. So I'm not too... Okay. Chalice of the Void. Into Chalice of the Void. Into Ensnaring Bridge. And we have a Force of Negation. We don't have a blue card for it yet. But we can cast it off of some lands at some point, perhaps. We might be getting hit by a Thoughtseize this turn, though. Nope, just a Ponder. Sure. I think the best, in my opinion, the best sort of deck that fits in like a relatively normal Stoneforge shell is probably Cephalid Breakfast. I think that deck's very good. And very fun as well. Okay, so now we've got our emergency blue card if we need it. But we're just going to try and play out a Chalice for one. This will probably force a Force of Will if they have one. They had 3 in both the other games, so I have to imagine they have one this game as well, right? Has to be a relatively high priority on things they're keeping in their hand. Yep, there we go. What are they pitching to it? A Baleful Strix. So they've pitched one of their cantrips there. Sure. We have another Chalice of the Void to do the same next turn, so I don't really mind about this. So this is going to be the Stoneforge. Sure. That's fine. Sort of the Meek. So that could be something we'll be using later. So our choice now is, if we play out the Ensnaring Bridge, it doesn't actually do anything this turn. So I think we just play out our Seat of the Synod this turn. And then we Chalice of the Void for 1 again. Opponent's got 3 cards in hand that aren't Cauldron. Okay, so that's stuck. Now, if we can Force of Negation something, it'll mean our Ensnaring Bridge is going to stop their creatures quite effectively. So here comes the Cauldron Complete. So it's going to bash us up for 5. And next turn we play Ensnaring Bridge. Now we are having to tap the Ancient Tomb for this, which does impact the clock slightly. But it didn't counterspell the Chalice. We have a counterspell for the Teferi, if they have a Teferi try and bounce it, or a Prismatic Ending. And we currently have enough cards in hand that the Germ can't attack, but the Mystic can. A Bauble, that's fine. It's the Teferi we need to worry about. We have the Thirst for Knowledge, which we can use to discard 2 cards if we want to, as well. So I assume this is just the Stoneforge getting in this turn. Yep, sure. Because we have a land in hand, we can definitely cast a spell this turn. We can definitely keep our hand below. So we have some choices here. We can play out some more of our hand, or we can hold up a Thirst for Knowledge. So if we Thirst for Knowledge, I think we Thirst for Knowledge now. We can discard this Sword of the Meek if we want to, because it will pop back up when we get the thing we want. Discard 2 cards or an artifact. I will discard 2 cards, please. I'd like to discard... Not having a blue card now is a little bit annoying, truth be told. I think we're just going to be pitching Flooded Strand and Swamp here. So not having a blue card now is a problem, which is definitely one of the risks we had of playing that Thirst for Knowledge there. If they have a Teferi this turn, we do lose. Looks like they're doing that. So we were kind of hoping to hit a blue card with our Thirst for Knowledge there, and we didn't. So I think we just lose the game now. It's annoying. We didn't. So the reason I cast the Thirst for Knowledge first was in case I drew something like a Glint-Nest Crane. So I could play that out. But that's probably not really necessary, is it, if we think back on how this game has panned out. Okay, they didn't have the Teferi. But it is a creature that can attack us. So we do need to try and empty our hand. Otherwise we're just going to get pecked to death by little guys. Now if we find a Thopter Foundry, then we're just golden. Did not find the Thopter Foundry. So play this one out. So we take 2 this turn and 2 next turn. So we definitely need to find something. Our Ancient Tomb is no longer live as a thing that does anything. Blue, blue, 1. Let's Force of Negation this. Do they have a counterspell for this? They do not. Okay, so we do get to play another turn. Thopter Foundry off the top would be probably the game, I think, at this point. Let's see what we draw. It's another land. Okay, so we are dead because we only drew lands. Sure. So the 2 games we lost were because we drew lots of land. My sequencing with the First Knowledge ended up not mattering very much, although I could have saved myself 2 life points, which wouldn't have really made a difference, I don't think, which is sad. All right. Let's try to draw slightly less land as the game goes on in the next round. Right, we lost the die roll for this game, but our opening hand looks great. We have a couple of prison pieces, we have a nice Baleful Strix, we got a blue card and Force of Will. It's a snap keep for me. Let's see what our opponent has. I've played against this player before, but I can't remember what they were playing. Hopefully something that really uses the graveyard. A mountain. A Goblin Welder. Okay, so this is a painter deck. Welder is fine. Another Leyline's not really what we want to see here, but we do have Force of Will, and we can start drawing cards with Baleful Strix soon. We're not in any danger of getting Welder doing anything on their side of the battlefield. This is purely going to be interfering with our stuff because of the Leyline. which is not something they can remove main deck unless they're running the new Haywire Might, which requires green mana, so I've not seen a lot of it yet. Great Furnace. Another Welder. Sure. We're going to have 1-1 beatdown. Going to have the 1-1 beatdown. So now we start playing out Baleful Strixes. A Pirate Blast. Sure, like we've got another one. Doesn't really matter to us. If we play them out, they can welder them, so they keep bouncing in and out, but that's just going to draw us cards, and that's not really where they want to be. And there's a Saga. That is a good card. They're just going to be in beatdown mode here. Simian Spirit Guide. Sure. Let's try Baleful Strix. Be nice to have a land this time. Or they all a land. So we can make this into a 5-5 on our next turn if we draw a land. Or we can just start playing out Glint-Nest Crane and drawing some cards that way. So we've got a lot of options here. Our opponent does get to shoot off Urza's Saga soon though. So the 1-1s are coming in. But whether or not the 2-2 is okay. I think we're just going to let this go. We'd rather have something that can block the Urza's Saga tokens. Academy Ruins. So if we play the Tezzeret out and turn our guy into a 5-5, our Tezzeret will only have 2 counters on, so they'll kill it on the next turn. So I think we play out the Crane here. So we have Chalice of the Void here, which seems pretty reasonable. So let's play that out. And it doesn't really matter which order these go in. That's going to get shuffled before we get there. So now if we want to if we want to Force of Will, we have to use our Tezzeret. But we do get to shut off our opponent's 1-drops. Okay, so they're lightning bolting our guy. So they can welder out our Chalice of the Void, but the thing they'd be giving us is a Baleful Strix. We have to be careful with how we play our Ensnaring Bridge because they can weld it out for a Baleful Strix as well. And another construct. Is this just going to get the Shadow Spear? Certainly a possibility. Okay, the Grindstone. So we do need to counter opposing Painter. Another Saga, sure. Let's block this. Trade with it. It's over to us. An Ancient Tomb. How does that impact things? So we can play out Tezzeret like this and plus it. Or we can turn our Chalice of the Void into a 5-5. If we turn our Chalice of the Void into a 5-5, then what happens? We can block this, but Tezzeret dies. I think we can... So this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it is lethal on board. So we probably do need to turn this into a 5-5. Now they can swap it again for a Baleful Strix, but that doesn't really do anything. We can't play our Force of Will now to make this play. So we are in a bit of trouble. I think our opponent is going to be ahead of us. Sadly, what double Urza's Sagas tend to do against sort of slower matchups. There's Painted Servant. And then they can Grindstone us. Oh, they've named blue though. Not that that makes a difference here. Right, we have to concede there. We don't want to show them our deck. Sure, so Painted Servant. This should be a pretty good matchup, I would imagine. Because we get to suppress a load of their stuff. And kill all their bits and pieces. Toxic Deluge, we've got these. So all of this stuff is fine and good. The Leyline is actually a good plan against our opponent here. The Thopter Foundry Sword of the Meek feels less good against all of their little guys, but we're going to be trying to blow those up, so that's probably not too shabby. I don't actually like Chalice in this matchup because they have all these welders and they're going to be bringing in stuff to blow them up. I think I'd rather just try and kill our opponents with these things. I think trading 1-for-1 with counter spells is going to be very bad against our opponent who's got all of these Pyroblasts they're bringing in. I don't think I want to be doing that. Which means we're looking at trimming one of these other things. Could be a Sword of the Meek, perhaps. I'm kind of just suppressing what our opponent's doing and trying to win the game that way. Sure, we'll submit like this. A lot of lands again. I think we have to mulligan. I need more lands than this. I have to mulligan again. Okay, this is fine. We can keep this. We don't need 2 Ancient Tombs. We probably don't need the Helm of Obedience right now. Now, this is not spectacular, but it plays, and that's all we can ask for, really. On Multi 5. Favour the Moonbreaker, sure. So I think Painter is one of the better combo decks in the format at the moment. I think it's very strong. Our opponent can run Blood Moon in their deck. We get an island here. Obviously, Blood Moon is not great for their own sagas, but usually when they're bringing it a Blood Moon effect in, it's because it's better against their opponent than the amount it hurts them. Okay, so we're Baleful Strix now. So we can make that into a 5-5 Death Toucher. We can kill the Goblin Shaman token. So we've got options available to us here. We can also just start upping our Tezzeret depending on what our opponent fields this turn. Okay, so there's Painter's Servant in the graveyard and they got a Grindstone coming along soon. Okay, so this gives their Pyroblasts a lot of power. So they're going to get a treasure here that they can use to make Pyroblasts, which can then blow up any permanents or counter any spells. So we draw Sword of the Meek. So we play out our Ancient Tomb. I imagine whatever we cast here is getting counted, which is an awkward state to be in. But I think we need to just play out our Baleful. Oh, yeah. So get our Strix out. It might get counted here. There's unfortunately not really much we can do about that. Okay, so it doesn't. They didn't have a Pyroblast. So I didn't want to burn it on that. So we'll play out our Sword of the Meek. So if we can get one of their creatures off the board, then we might be able to sudden Edict for some value. Possibly getting rid of this Painter's Servant. So it's going to be our opponent's turn in a sec. And then on our opponent's next turn, they have the Grindstone combo available. So we really need to find a Sorcerer's Spyglass. So we'll attack. So we're always blocking here because we want to get the maximum amount of things off of our opponent's board as possible to make our sudden Edict work. This turn we're trying to draw into Sorcerer's Spyglass. Okay, the most hits that we have is with the Crane, Ensnaring Bridge, Thopter Foundry. I think we are just dead here. So our opponent can just mill us out this turn. Sure, so we've got a Construct here. They probably have Pyroblast in hand. Like, really good painter draws feel pretty much impossible to beat half the time. Which is why it's so powerful at the moment. This is just a standard game where our opponent gets the Goldfish because we were sort of fluffing around and couldn't find anything. Sure. So he leaves that game. That is a shame. I think ordinarily this matchup is probably going to be pretty good for us because we have lots of removal and disruption for their combo. But you have to draw it. Mulligan to 5 didn't really set us off in a very good start for that one. It's a bit of a non-game really, unfortunately. Alright, let's go into the third round. This hand seems fine. Got a couple of redraws. We've got a Leyline. Like, against a fair matchup, it's not going to be great for us. No, sorry, an unfair matchup. But against a fair matchup, this hand's going to be very strong. Now, against some of the unfair matchups, the Leyline will do the work. So our opponent is starting on 6 cards. And we're on the play here. We'll play out our Flooded Strand. That's our opponent's turn. Bad lands. That's either Goblins, Storm, or Reanimator. So they might just be doing this to see what our deck does, and then they'll concede if they are Reanimator. So I have to expect that. There could be some sort of Grixis deck, I suppose. Let's go and get Basic Swamp because we've got Basic Island. Oh, this one can't get Basic Swamp, can it? We'll just get an Underground Sea here. Blue, black. Let's draw a card. It's another land. Weird. So this is what happens when you don't have Brainstorms in your deck, really. You kind of draw a lot of land or not enough land, and you don't have the cantrips to fix it. A Dark Ritual, okay. They could be playing a Shouldered. Some of the Reanimator decks I've seen do run Shouldered to hedge against things like this happening. Fervent Champion, oh my. I haven't seen this one for a long time. Lucille. I'm going to have to read this one, aren't I? A crypt creature gets +2/+0 and has Menace. When a crypt creature attacks, defending player sacrifices a creature. If they do, create a walk token. Okay. So this is going to attack and create a 2/2. Cool. Well, I could not see that coming. That's for sure. So we have to sacrifice a creature. It's not optional. So they get 2/2. Now we need to draw some things that aren't land. That is not a land. So that's good. But it's going to be very hard to keep a creature on the board in the face of this little combo we've got going on here. Which is pretty cool. I've not seen this before. I've not even seen this card Lucille before. It's Secret Lair drop. Alright, I think this is Walking Dead, right? Okay. So it looks like we're going to be wanting the removal half of our deck. Which is a relatively quick clock. Darcy Voidwalker as well. Yeah. Okay, this isn't really doing us too much good. But we can play our Tezzeret out. And we can start plussing it. There's no point minusing it because we just sacrifice any of our guys. None of these are really what we want. The Baleful Strix does give us a redraw, but will give them a 2/2 when they attack. Whereas the Chalice of the Void is a card that we can get out of our hand very easily. So hopefully they'll divert some resources to killing the Tezzeret and give us another turn, but they have 3, 6, 7, 8. So they have a 2-turn clock, even if they go after Tezzeret, right? They hit us for 5 this turn, they hit us for 8 the next turn. So, yeah, not looking great. We don't even have something we can pitch to the Force of Negation here either. Our opponent's deck is kind of cool. We're just going to our face. Yep, and they have exactly 8 damage on board here. So we are dunzos. Okay, so when you play a deck like this, you tend to ask yourself, what do I need, the removal or the counter spells? And right now it looks like we need removal and ways of dealing with creatures. So Engineered Explosives comes in, this whole big stack of black cards comes in, these Force of Negations come out. Now I don't know how useful the Leylines of the Void are going to be. That is a question. How useful is our Helm Leyline combo? Now the Sword of the Meek combo looking very good against an aggro deck. The Witchbane Orb seems fine if they're going to be like hitting us with discard and burning us, but mostly we're going to cover that with the Chalice. I'm really not sure that we want these ley lines in our deck. So we take out the ley lines in the Helm. That gives us 2 cards. So what have we seen? Not a lot, really. The Cursed Totem can stop Doughty Voidwalker finding things, but it's hard to say what's in our opponent's deck at this point. I suppose we can board in a couple of Sorcerer's Spyglass, try and hit like equipment. If we kill their guys, we can stop the equipment going onto stuff. It's like a relatively good catch-all and also gives us a peek into our opponent's hand. Or we could play a 1-on-1 of Leyline and Helm to eventually find, but I think that's bad. I don't think we have enough blue cards to play to reliably play one of our Force of Wills here, so I think we're probably just on the Spyglasses. Now, if our opponent is aiming on killing us with creatures, then I think we are fine. What does this hand do? It makes Chalice, but then doesn't really go anywhere. I think we can mulligan and get better. Okay, so this hand would be great if I had any black mana. Can I sit there and wait to draw black mana? I don't think so, because this hand literally does nothing without it. This hand is okay. We have a Thirst for Knowledge that can cover some sins. We get rid of this Ancient Tomb. I think we have to get rid of one of these 2 cards. I think I'm probably going to get rid of the Strix. Although the Strix can bring back the Sword of the Meek later on if that's the thing we want to do. I think it's the Strix here. And we just play out this basic island and pass basic swamp from our opponent into nothing. Okay. So we have the Chalice of the Void. Do we want to play this Chalice of the Void now? I think we probably do, looking at what they played last game. And then next turn we can play out the Thirst for Knowledge and discard the Sword of the Meek, so it's just going to be getting some new cards. But the Sword of the Meek being discarded is kind of like keeping it as a draw. So it's basically going to be a draw 3. Kitesail Freebooter. Okay, so we're probably losing our Thirst for Knowledge here. Which we were kind of hoping would dig us out of our mulligan. But if we draw Black Source, we get to Sudden Edict. We can get it back then. Polluted Delta. We have no reason to do it right now. So I'm going to take this 1. No, I'm going to take the 1 and we'll see what our opponent plays. So there's another Kitesail Freebooter. So if we hit this one, this is a really awkward position. We're just going to lose our Thirst for Knowledge here. Either way. Is it worth edicting just to get a 1-2 off the board? Or is it worth leaving it there and trying to draw a Toxic Delusion thing? I think we probably are supposed to go and get ourselves a swamp and just Sudden Edict. It's annoying that we can't get our thing back. But the Sudden Edict always hits the worst creature. So we'd have to plow through some other stuff with other removal for it. Alright. Flooded Strand. It's not really where we want it to be. So we can play it out. We don't play out the Sword of the Meek in case we want to discard it with a Thirst for Knowledge. If they Kitesail Freebooter this, it's not really the end of the world either. Our opponent's clock isn't very fast. For now. Caves of Chaos Adventure. Well, that is a fast clock. Kind of my deck full of removal. I'm not really drawing a lot of removal right now. So if you're not familiar with Initiative, basically this solo game's out over a course of a few turns. So we need to kill this or draw a... We need to draw an Ensnaring Bridge. Would be a good direction to go in. Another Sword of the Meek. So we cast this one out just so we have less cards in our hand for an Ensnaring Bridge in case we brick later on. But we don't have much turns left because this attacks for 7 next turn, then I get hit for 5. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I'm going to be on 2 after this. Can't believe that this was the mechanic that they thought was okay for Pauper. Like, this is top tier legacy power level. And they just threw it straight into Pauper. Alright. The fact that they've made this one bigger is actually good for us if we draw one of our 4 Ensnaring Bridges. This gets countered into our Chalice of Void, so don't remind about that. Unless they're filling their graveyard for a reason. I suspect not. When they reveal. Oh, I've not seen this card before. Flame War Brash Veteran. That Transformer, is it? What does it do? Some sort of card draw engine. I'm not really sure what's going on here. When this deals combat damage to a player, exile that many cards from the top of your library face down, put an intel counter on each of them, convert Flame War, sacrifice that. There's a lot of text on that. I don't think it's that relevant that I read it, to be honest, because we're probably going to be dead soon. Okay, I'm just not going to draw anything but lands this whole league, I don't think. I'm just asking our opponent for their deck list, because there's lots of weird stuff I've not seen it before, so quite happy to have a little look-see and see. Maybe I'll play it on the channel. Wait, my opponent has conceded the match. Why has that happened? I was stone cold dead. I have to assume that was an accident. Not sure what happened there. Alright, we're into round 4 now. And this is our opening hand. We get to make a turn 1 Chalice, and we have a Force of Negation. This seems pretty good. So let's keep. Ancient Tomb into Chalice the Void. Now, our second land does come in tapped. So there is definitely a cost there that's going to be a little bit annoying. Okay, so we've got a Force of Will, exiling Dress Down. That's fine. So we can actually play out our Underground Sea this turn and hold up some mana. So we're probably looking at Thirst for Knowledge, pitching probably the Mistvault Bridge, depending on what we draw off of the 3 cards. A Volcanic Island, sure. Misty Rainforest. Let's cast this. Blue and 2. Let's see what we get, if anything. I'd like to discard. This is a little bit awkward because of the land that we have here. We have 2 cards. We'll probably get rid of Leyline and a Force of Negation. So what do we do here? So we can play out a Glint-Nest Crane here. Depends if we want to use our Ancient Tomb. I think we're going to preserve our life total here. And crack this for a blue source. Going to get an island. I'm going to play this out. I do like Glint-Nest Crane way more than most people who've ever played Magic the Gathering. But if you know me in real life, you know I really like birds. I think my current handle on Twitter is Goose Enthusiast, so there you go. Let's get some cards over this, or get a card off this Glint-Nest Crane. Oh, Baleful Strix is pretty nice. Bird into bird, what's not to love? And then we'll pass. Dress Down. So I assume my opponent is playing Stifle Knot. That's what this sequence suggests to me. They're going to try and play a Phyrexian Dreadnought this turn. I think we can pick a fight over this one. Well, we do have the Ensnaring Bridge in play. Well, potentially in play. But I think just getting rid of the Dreadnought guaranteed makes the most sense here. Because if we miss on our Ensnaring Bridge, because we have to use our Ancient Tomb for it, and they counter it, we're just dead. So at least we can pick a fight over it there. Let's go and get black, blue. Let's get a bird. Let's draw a card. It's a basic island. I don't think we need a basic island right now. I think we're just playing this tapped. And we can happily sail in for 1 almighty damage with our Glint-Nest Crane. Powerful. Opponent's got Polluted Delta, and they're not doing anything with it. They can cast an Endurance this turn though, which does change things a little bit for me. Let's cast this, which will shut down potential Uros, which are usually in these decks with the Stifle Knot. I think we attack with just the Baleful Strix in case they have the Endurance. Just a lightning bolt on it. Okay, that's fine by me. That's a 2 for 1. I'll take that. Surprised they didn't do that in response to Leylines, at least to be in their graveyard then, which could be useful. They've got something like a Murktide. If we draw Tezzeret, we can get an indestructible 5/5, which is going to be very good against a deck that has red removal. So they didn't Endurance us last turn. So I think we're fine to attack this turn. Because the Endurance would probably be... I don't know, they didn't want to trade their Endurance for it, but yeah, okay. I'm not sure if these decks have the room to run Endurance main deck, but it's just a possibility with these lands. And obviously the lists aren't always stock, so you don't necessarily know everything in your opponent's 75. We're not going to play this next Polluted Delta out because we want to have cards in hand for the purposes of Thirst for Knowledge. Our opponent's hand doesn't seem to have a lot of action in right now, which makes me think that they've probably got reactive spells, which means it's going to be very difficult for us to push into this game very far. An Ensnaring Bridge. I don't even know if we want to play the Ensnaring Bridge out, because we might need to... It's obviously good against Phyrexian Dreadnought, but we might want to be able to attack with big Tezzeret soon, so we can get the 5/5 Indestructibles on the go. So I think we just hold up. We're representing what looks like hardcast Force of Will. Okay, I just played out Tropical Island and passed. A Baleful Strix. We will cast this. They can dress down in response so we don't draw a card, but they did not do that. A Glint-Nest Crane. Oh yeah, this is the magic that I signed up to play today. Bird into bird, and then bird into bird. What's not to love? Okay, so I have a Helm of Obedience in our hand now. Our opponent knows it, so this could be interesting. Come with our little bird. So if our opponent has a Force of Will, they have to spend it on the Helm of Obedience next turn or they lose the game. Alternatively, if we draw a Tezzeret, we can just throw a 5/5 at them and maybe force them to counter our Tezzeret and allow the Helm of Obedience to go through, because that's the thing that's easier to win with if our opponent has creatures. Our opponent's still not playing anything. Must be so much counter magic in their hand. Can we go to attacks here? We could have a Hull Breach or something, which doesn't block these. So we don't really have anything cool to force through with the alongside the Helm here. So if we play it and they have a Force of Will, they can hardcast at this turn. I don't think we need to. I think we can wait. Maybe try and force two things through in the same turn. Because I don't want my opponent to trade 1-for-1 with our thing that automatically wins the game. Especially when I've got a 3-turn clock on the board. Right, back to us again. I think we will play another Leyline. This way a bounce spell won't save them if I go for the Helm of Obedience. They'll need 2. And go to attacks. Just beat them down with terrible creatures. Just an endurance? They do have endurances in their deck. Okay, good to know. So this has reach, so it can gobble one of our Glint-Nest Cranes, but still taking 2. Does this change the maths of playing things out? So we can play an Ensnaring Bridge now, which I don't hate as a thing we can do. It's going to be very good against the Phyrexian Dreadnought deck and might even get a counterspell. We kind of need to save the Helm, even though they know it's there. We kind of need to bait them into making a mistake. Alternatively, we might be able to force 2 things through in one turn, which is kind of what I'm hoping for. Let me just get this. Play out an Ensnaring Bridge. This will stop the endurance from attacking us this turn, which is good. If they have a bounce spell, they can bounce something and attack though. But it saves us from potential Uros and Phyrexian Dreadnoughts down the line. So I'm quite happy about that. Blue, green. Okay, I was expecting the Uro there. Now, Uro into Leyline on the Void is not so good, which could be explain some of the cards in our opponent's hand. What have we got here? An Ancient Tomb. Okay. Again, I don't think we need to force through the... we could attack with just the Baleful Strix here, which I don't hate. They'll probably trade it off though. Okay, so just trading off, that's fine. So Tezzeret is lethal at this point, so there's 2, 4, 6, 8 damage. And we also got the 1 from the Glint-Nest Crane. So if we can get Tezzeret and plus it, and put the Helm of Obedience in the same turn, that's really what we're looking to do. Mystic Sanctuary. This is going to get their Force of Will back on top. So I imagine that they did have the Force of Will this whole time. But if they didn't, we could have won the game many turns ago. But again, we're not behind here, so an Uro. Sure, so this is going to go straight into play because of the dress down, which is a bit annoying. And a Phyrexian Dreadnought. Okay. And they have a Force of Will in hand. Okay. Okay, so this is one of the things we wanted to draw. Let's cast this first. This protects us. Okay, so there's a Force of Will. And play out the Helm. There's another Force of Will. And play this guy out. So our opponent has no cards in hand right now. Okay, cool. So they know we're going to uptick this, and then next turn we get to drain them for 2, 4, 6, and they're on 3. So a bit of a grindy one, that. So you have to decide if this is a killing matchup or a countering matchup. I think this is a killing matchup. So I want these things that kill our opponent's creatures. We can probably board out some of these. We don't really want to be trading 1-for-1 in this matchup. We don't want to trade 2 for 1 in this matchup, so this looks good to me. Engine Explosives, very good against the Phyrexian Dreadnought. I like our Graveyard Hate package. Ensnaring Bridge, also pretty good against what our opponent's doing. The rest of it, not necessary. I don't think one Toxic Deluge because 12 life is a lot to pay. I think what we've got going on is just better. So if we strip these out, we're looking for 2 more cuts to round this out. Difficult to say what the best things to cut are. The deck's relatively tight. We could just be cutting bits of our combo here and just relying on playing a control game into these sorts of things here. We could trim a Tezzeret, but I think Tezzeret is just too good in this matchup. So I think we're probably looking at cutting 1 and 1 of these and just relying on our ability to tutor for stuff. Well, not tutor, but dig for things. This seems fine. So it did look like in that last game our opponent had the second Force of Will, which meant to me that they could have Force of Willed our Helm if we played out earlier. But we're playing it all on 1 turn. It meant that we could resolve all the things we wanted. So I'm very happy with how that game played out. So this will stop the Euro. It gives us a turn 2 Chalice of the Void. A Baleful Strix incoming. We have a Sudden Edict to take out the first Phyrexian Dreadnought. This seems like a keep to me. No Euros for our opponent. And we get to Chalice of the Void. And Sudden Edict. Carpet of Flowers. Not actually that good against us. We're not big on the islands here. This is the land we care about getting wastelanded least because we need our coloured sources. So this is the one we're going to dangle out in front of our opponent and hope they don't have wasteland. Like these decks sometimes have a wasteland. Like usually like 1 or 2 with a Life from the Loam package in. Okay. A Ponder. That's fine. So quite like to try and find some blue sources here. Also, it's fine to play this one out first because we want to play the Chalice before we play the Strix out. Did not draw a land yet. The trials and tribulations of playing a deck without cantrips. Alright, Chalice of the Void. I have to imagine this... Oh, okay. Maybe they just have removal for it instead then. Because at this place board, they're going to have ways of blowing up Chalice, I think. We've got Expressive Iteration. Sure. It's my defined card. Mystic Sanctuary. Not getting any joy out of this Carpet of Flowers on their side over there. It does give them more operations to do, which means their clock's going to tick down quicker than ours. Polluted Delta. This is a good draw. We don't really want to go and get an island just yet, though. So we can either play out the Strix or we can do an end of turn Thirst for Knowledge. I think that's going to be better here. Means that they get less time to get free mana off the carpet. Like, it's not really mattering too much because of how much land they already have. Let's crack this. Get basic island. Do we need a basic island? This is going to be a Stifle. Ancient Grudge on the Chalice. This looks like it could be a Stifle here. Yep. Oakley dokley. Not great for us there. So we have a swamp. I was just trying to let them have some mana for their Carpet Flowers. I was trying to be helpful. And they decided that that wasn't the thing they wanted to happen. So the only real threats they can play at the moment is they can play the Euro with a dress down. Or they can play the Phyrexian Dreadnoughts. So we should be able to pick one of them up with our hand right now. At some point we'll draw a blue source. Maybe we'll draw a blue source that doesn't turn on Carpet Flowers. Now that'll teach them for stifling us. I don't think we need to play any of these cards from our hand right now. I think we can just pass a turn. Their Ancient Grudge is gone because of the ley lines. We don't have to worry about that. Brainstorm. Sure. So they've certainly unlocked their hand by getting rid of the Chalice. An Euro. So this is going to go straight into the graveyard because of the ley line. So this is just a 3 mana, draw a card, gain some life. They do get an additional land drop out of it. Oh, they're stifling it. Okay. That's fine. We've got something for this. They're not going to like it. Goodbye, Euro. And that's our turn. We've drawn a blue source. Our opponent has 3 cards in hand. I don't think we care about the mana that our opponent has. And if they want a Force of Will and lose 2 cards for this, I don't really mind. I think we'll play out this guy to try and get into our deck. I don't think this warrants a Force of Will. A red Elemental Blast. Sure. That's fine by me. We want to keep the Sword of the Meek because we have the Thirst of Knowledge in hand, which is kind of our plan for next turn, I think. We can always turn this. We can always play the Sword of Meek and turn it into a 5/5. That's always quite fun, beating people down with a sword. So they're going to get 1 mana from this, but mana's not their issue at the moment. They got loads of mana over there. So I think we play this out. We're casting it now because we have various drops we can make. We got Pyroblast, or just a high cast Force of Will. Sure. So now we're going to play out this Sword of the Meek, and then next turn we're going to turn it into a 5/5 and start bashing our opponent. Obviously, that can depend on what our opponent does. We might just be better off plussing this and making sure we get the value, but we'll see. 5/5 is quite difficult for our opponent to deal with. They only have 2 cards in hand. We can also start recycling the Baleful Strix whenever we wish. Let's try this. 1, 2, blue, black. Got another Force of Will? Okay, it looks like I do. So we can recycle artifacts soon. The only problem is it costs all of our blue mana. I'd like to get another blue source, and then we can start spelling and putting something on top of our library. Because these obviously draw us an extra card. Okay, so they're pondering or brainstorming this turn. Nope. Ensnaring Bridge. Okay, so we go for blue, black. We're really just trying to find a second blue source, and then we'll start using our ruins. Sure. So how many Force of Wills is that? 1, 2, 3 Force of Wills there. Okay. Sure, we'll pass. I don't really want to tap the Ancient Tomb unless I have to. So this turn we're going to put Chalice of the Void on top of our library. So we need blue and black. Sure, you can start with that. We found another source. Excellent. Carpet of Flowers. Still only getting them 1 mana. There's a Brainstorm. What do they got for us? Minsk and Boo. That's a pretty good one. Okay, so we have to play this Ensnaring Bridge this turn. Should have left up blue mana so we can put something on top of our library if we need to. We could play a second Ensnaring Bridge here at the cost of 2 life. I think that's worth it because our opponent gets to Minsk and Boo this thing at us soon. Okay, so they've shown us that we want to play Sorcerer's Spyglass in the next game. So what they're going to do is they're going to put counters on this, and then next turn they'll put counters on again, and turn after they'll fling at us and kill us. Because it flings at any target. So Sorcerer's Spyglass. Okay, they're just doing it right now to draw 4 cards. That's also fine. I guess it gives them +1 damage the next one in. Not that that's going to make a difference due to the size of our life total. Ancient Tomb, that's not really the one, is it? Let's play this with our black manas. So we can't really afford to get any of these back because they don't stop the Minsk and Boo from killing us. Just a final Force of Will, a Force of Negation, sure. I think we keep these in hand. Wait, no, we don't keep these in hand, actually, do we? No, because this means the Minsk and Boo attacks us for 1 this turn. So if we couldn't have played enough out to stop the Minsk and Boo, but we could have played this out, and the next turn if we brick on something we can play the Leyline. But I don't think the margins of the game are going to come down to that, but if they could get 2 pecks in, that might be enough for them to then bash with the Minsk and Boo. Smash to dust. Okay, what is smash to dust? Destroy a creature defended 1 damage to each creature. Okay, I see. It's going to come in at 4, so we're dead next turn. We need to find an Ensnaring Bridge and... Well, actually, if we just find Thopter Foundry, that's fine, right? 1, 2, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if we draw a Thopter Foundry, of which there's only 1 left in our deck, we can be all right here. Okay, they're stifling the Euro. That's fine because 1 guy can block this. We did not find it. We have to concede the game. Sideboard-wise, so we know they have this Minsk and Boo now. Does that make me more inclined to play these Sorcerer's Spyglasses? I think so. What are they going to replace? I think the only realistic thing we can replace with them is our Thopter Sword combo. So we have less dead cards in our deck. They have a lot of artifact hate, but I don't think we can bring in all these blue spells and get pyroblasted with them. I think we just have to play it like this. Alright, let's submit. If this had another land in it, it would be pretty good, but we can't keep this. This is okay. We turn 1 Mistvault Bridge, turn 2 Chalice. Throw back one of these Ensnaring Bridges. If we draw some more mana, we can get a Helm of Obedience kill. So we've got some play here. We need to be pretty quick about passing priority because we've got less time on the clock. Hopefully our opponent's going to play some more of these sorts of effects that takes up a bit of the clock. Let's play this one out. Reason being, we don't want to give them an island for Carpet of Flowers until we need to. Okay, so we shut off their Stifles and their Phyrexian Dreadnoughts, and their Ponders and Brainstorms. And Lightning Bolts, but they've probably not got many of those left in their deck right now. Let's play this out. I think we just get Underground Sea. I haven't seen anything that's going to attack our mana base. Let's play Ensnaring Bridge. So we've kind of got the Phyrexian Dreadnoughts covered on 2 angles here. And the Ure, because they can't stifle the Ure. So we've got a lot of lock pieces in play. Now our opponent has shown us that they have some amount of artifact hit in their deck. Dress down. Okay. This looks like our opponent is going to be playing an Uro on their turn. They won't be playing Dreadnoughts into the Chalice. Maddening Hex. Okay. That's fine. I don't really care about that very much. This is a non-creature spell. Okay. So let's cast a creature spell. Our opponent passed very quickly then. That suggests to me that our opponent does not have a Force of Will in hand and we're going to go for our combo next turn. Petty Theft targeting our Leyline. Sure. That's a really admission that they don't have it. Have a counterspell. Ancient Grudge on the Chalice. So we can either play the Leyline out or we can play out the Minsk and Boo. The Sorcerer's Spyglass for Minsk and Boo. So we crack this. Get Underground Sea. Try to Leyline the Void here. Black. Black. 1. Black. Yep, you have your Maddening Hex trigger. 2, that's fine. And we will leave this guy back in case they have a Minsk and Boo. At least we can trade with it so it doesn't go 4-7. A Glint-Nest Crane. I think we're going to cast this first. Just so we can peek at our opponent's hand and make sure that the coast is clear. Okay, so cracking this because they don't want me to Pity Needle it. Let's see what they got in their hand. They could have a Force of Will here, but it feels weird to put it on the Spyglass. Okay, they're just playing the Borrower. That's fine, we can trade on this. So what do we got here? Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, and Dreadnought. Okay. So if we cast this, it's going to get red blasted. Is that worth playing just to keep our hand empty? I think it is. Which one are you going to go for? Red Elemental Blast. Okay. So next turn, we have the kill. We just need to make sure our opponent doesn't draw a Force of Will and leave up the mana for it. Okay. Expressive Iteration, no. Minsk and Boo. Okay. This doesn't... Well, this could put us low for the purposes of the trigger on the Maddening Hex. We block here. We take 1. We take another one from this. And I think we are golden because we know our opponent's hand here. And this mills out our entire opponent's library and exiles it all. So if our opponent has a Lightning Bolt, they do not have a Lightning Bolt. Excellent, cool. So that was the end of that match. We're on the play for the final round, and this is the hand we've been dealt. We have a combo kill, we have 3 birds. What more could I possibly want in my life? Let's keep. So we'll start with the Leyline in play, and we'll play out Basic Swamp. This will make our opponent think we're like a standard Helm, like mono black deck, when we're not. We are playing birds. Basic play is Chrome Mox. Okay, this suggests to me that my opponent is running the Adventures deck. Sorry, not Adventures, the Adventurer deck. Sure. This Chalice isn't really going to be doing very much for us right now. So, crack this. We're going to get ourselves a basic island. I think this turn we play the Glint-Nest Crane, take the hit. Next turn we attack with it and play the Baleful Strix so that we can block the creature. Swing and a miss is pretty bad, but at least none of those things that weren't lands are gone. We can play the Chalice for 0 here to stop Chrome Mox shenanigans, if they have any more of those. And this doesn't really impact what we're doing, so I think this is fine. Just going to put 2 counters on this. It's going to bash us for 5. And then we're going to attack, get the initiative for ourselves, which gets us another land to work us towards Helm of Obedience, and we're going to play a Death Toucher, so when they attack next turn, we can kill whatever their threat is. So if they don't play a threat this turn, we're in good shape. If they do play a threat this turn, it's going to be a little bit awkward for us. If they remove our Glint-Nest Crane, that's not going to be great either. Or if they remove our Baleful Strix. Okay, we're in an okay spot, I think. Okay, so let's go and get the initiative first, because this does not block flyers. They're paying costs. I think they're about to solitude this. Touch of the Spirit Realm. Okay. So they're blinking it, so I'm going to get to see more cards with it in a second. It's black, this is blue. Let's get a nice little guy. Oh, okay, we got this combo, which is actually pretty good. But we missed a land drop again. Okay. Swing and a miss again. I can't catch a break today. Alright. So going into the Undercity. This is going to hit us for 5. We can kill the White Plume Adventurer here if it attacks. Seasoned Dungeoneer would be pretty bad for us. Okay, the Thalia, that's going to make this very expensive. Which is a problem, but Glint-Nest Crane, 1/3 body, blocks Thalia. What a card. What a card. Another one of those. Okay, so let's go to attacks. See if the Crane can get in. Oh yeah. Let's get an island. Let's play our island. I think we need to play Glint-Nest Crane here. Baleful Strix is pretty good. And let's see how we do. We should be able to stop them getting the initiative back. Archon of Amira. Each player can't cast more than one non-basic lands your opponent's control and fell tapped. Okay. So I can either scry or I can make my guy bigger. I think we go for Forge and make one of my Glint-Nest Cranes bigger. This means it can tangle with the Archon. So I have all of their creatures checked right now. So this comes in tapped. I think we are just playing out the Baleful Strix, getting ourselves some cards. This against the Archon of Amira is pretty annoying. But we have the kill in 2 turns time. So next time we can play out a Thopter Foundry. Is this? A Seasoned Dungeoneer is bad for us here because it can give guys protection from creatures. Chalice for 2. That's fine. That's not how we're going to win this game. I don't really want to go to creature, do I? I could go the Archon of Amira. That seems quite good. Let's go this. So we'll play this out. It comes in tapped. We can't play any of these out because of the Chalice of the Void. We can play out the Helm of Obedience right now, but we know they have touch of the other realm, whatever it's called. Actually, we can't play it because of the Thalia. Yeah, we just can't play anything here. We just have to let it go for a turn. This only finds a creature, right? A creature card, yeah. We get a card next turn, though. We also get to kill the Archon of Amira. The initiative is very powerful, and the fact I managed to just take it away and hide behind these little birds is doing me a world of good. My sequencing of Crane into Strix as well was very helpful. Just gobble up their Archon. So I get to draw an extra card here as well. So a land does it for us. Archives, please. Nope. That wasn't a land. That's also not a land. Okay. Can't expose ourselves to the Spirit Realm thing, which is annoying. I think we cast this knowing that it's going to go into the graveyard. The reason for this being, but if any of our 1/1s come into play, we can get that back. Yeah, so I need another land, so I'm not playing into Touch of the Spirit Realm. They can blink. Is there any permanent they can blink? Exile target artifact or creature. Yeah, so they can't. Okay, so using this to get the initiative back. So they did have it. So if I'd have played it out that turn, they could have just Oblivion Ringed it and I wouldn't be able to win the game. So this has worked out all right for us. Now they are going to get Throne of the Dead 3 out in a second. But we just need one more land to win this game. And we do get to Baleful Strix anything that comes our way. Unless they have the Seasoned Dungeoneer, which gives their guy protection from creatures. But at least their guys aren't very big right now. Sure. So our Glint-Nest Crane can get in next turn as well. And get us back and it'll pop us into Throne of the Dead 3. We can't do anything about this, unfortunately. You can untap your White Plume Adventurer. A Tezzeret. What does that do? How does that change things? So the Seasoned Dungeoneer is going to get us. I think we have to attack with this. And if this gets us a creature that cantrips into a land, we win. Just needs to find Vault of Whispers. It did not find anything. Okay. How can we deal with the protection from creatures? This is an underground sea. Put this on the stack. If we'd have goaded the Thalia earlier, then we win the game. So we needed a land. There's nothing we can do. This has to be, can't be 0 on it. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. If we'd have goaded the Thalia, I expected us to draw a land in those like 5 draws that we had. But I imagine this matchup should be fine because we've just got like a load of removal and little guys that can take the initiative. Sure, we'll concede the game. All right, so our opponent has a load of creatures. Let's get rid of them. Force of Negations, unplayable. Ensnaring Bridge, very good. Witchbane Orb does stop the trap, so I don't hate that as a thing that we have in our deck. The Engineering Explosives is quite expensive for what it does. I'm not sure if it's worth doing. The Leyline and the Void does nothing here, so we're going to board out the Leyline combo. And Chalice of the Void is okay on 0, but that's about it. Is it better than Engineered Explosives? Engineered Explosives can kill off a load of their things. I think we're probably better off with Explosives, and that leaves us with 1 Chalice. We have these Force of Wills that look pretty bad. I don't really know how much mana we're going to be able to, how much in the way of blue cards we're going to have for them. We could trim them for Chalices, but then we're still got too many slots there. If we put 3 Chalices in, we're still going to have 1 Force of Will in our deck. I think I'd rather have 4 Force of Will than none, than 1, if that makes sense. 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So we still got 21 blue cards, that's fine. Alright. I guess we keep this. We get to play turn 2 Bird, unless they have a turn 1 Archon, which is unlikely but possible. They did keep a 7 though. Sure. Chromox. Just a Thalia. Oh, Rest in Peace. Okay. I don't care about Rest in Peace. That's a weird inclusion for our opponent there. This is going to get a non-basic because our opponent has stuff that makes our non-basics come into play tapped. So we can get these out and get ahead of it all. So we can go blue and black, smash down this Strix, draw a card. We have 2 more Strixes. So we can quite easily steal the initiative if that's the thing they're doing. Should have left my helms in if they were going to be Rest in Peace in us. Lauren of the Third Path. Sure. That's fine. We have many more where that came from. Black, blue, play this out, draw a card. I am going to play out my Sword of the Meek now for the purpose of getting our hand empty for Ensnaring Bridge, as well as the fact that we can stick it on our guys and they can survive combat. White Plume Adventurer. Sure. Let's see if we can get the initiative off our opponent. We can indeed. We can get a black source because we've got blue source in hand there. Let me go to our main phase. And play out this with blue and black. We have a Sudden Edict as well. Do we want to play the Sudden Edict or do we want to play the Glint-Nest Crane? They might just try and force things through. They might just try and force things through by attacking with 2 just to get the initiative back so we can Sudden Edict them away. Either way, it's going to cost us our a tap of the Ancient Tombs. So we have to decide which of these plays is better, the Crane or the Edict here. I think we just want to clear stuff off the board. I'm just going to play this out. Okay, I get to draw a card. I'm happy about that. Okay, Force of Will. That's a good one to draw. This is pretty good against the Ensnaring Bridge, I suppose. But if I'm drawing cards, that's probably not good for them because my deck is chock full of removal at this point. I say chock full. It's got a decent amount of it. What is this? A Palace Jailer. So I can steal back the Monarch very easily from our opponent here. I think we will cast this. We'll see which one of their creatures goes here. And then we can decide what we want to do about this. So they get 1 turn on the Monarch, but I get the Monarch like every turn. After that, right? That seems fine. So they hit me for 2 this turn and get the initiative back, which pumps one of their guys. Sure. So they get to draw 1 card here. So we go to attacks. Attack with our little bird. Sure. Let's do some scrying. Engine Explosives feels pretty good here. Anything the Underground Sea we definitely don't need, but we'll keep the Explosives around for sure. And we get our guy back. Let me draw this. It's all coming up Millhouse right now. So we get to cast this for 0. Blow up our opponent's lands. Then we get to Toxic Deluge for 4. And then we will play out Seat of the Synod, which can become a 5/5 next turn. And we're drawing all these cards. We're in the place. We've got a Force of Will if they play a guy. I think we are doing okay here. Archon of Emeria. How much do I care about Archon of Emeria? It's kind of annoying. I think we can cast this, like this, and we can pitch one of our cranes. We've got the Monarch. We just want to make sure we keep the Monarch. So what does this do? Stashes treasure, right? Stashes treasure, arena is gold. So we'd rather have some treasure, I think. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're actually going to plus this turn. We can play out a Glint-Nest Crane now. But that will take us for 2 damage. If our opponent goes into trap somehow, then we lose if we do that. So I think we just hold this turn. Can we play a land this turn? Any land we play doesn't actually help us out very much. We can't really pop it because if they play a White Plume Adventurer, they get to trap us. And if we draw a Force here, we'll feel pretty good. We did not draw a Force. Doesn't look like I have a White Plume Adventurer here. So what does this one do now? I get a 4/1 guy. Sure. So now we play out our Thopter Foundry. Then we sacrifice, paying 1. We sacrifice this. We don't get anything back because of the Rest in Peace, do we? That's a little bit annoying, but that's still fine, right? So you have 2, 4. So we need to keep playing out artifacts at this point, right? So play this out for 0. And we probably played this out for 0. Oh wait, that was a real bad play, wasn't it? What am I doing? So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12. So if we cast this, we got our sequencing the wrong way around there. And then we minus this, target our opponent. And that should be lethal. If I can do maths. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12. Sure. Okay, so they have Rest in Peace for our Thopter Sword combo. But it's still fine to sack other stuff off, gain life and gain blockers. I think that's fine. I don't think we need to worry about that. Yeah, we could always hedge with a single helm, just in case our opponent does have a Rest in Peace. It's not too bad. Although, do I want to have a Helm of Obedience in my hand is the question. I don't think I do. Do I want a Force of Negation? Force of Negation doesn't hit their flickery thing, only if they cast it. I think if this on the play might be better. We don't have a lot of time left on our clock, so we need to play smart and quick. Easier said than done. A turn 2 Crane and a turn 2 Sudden Edict. I don't think this is good enough. Yikes. This isn't very good either. This is probably worse than it was before, but we do have the Thirst for Knowledge to put us out. I think we just mulligan here. Yikes. I think we have to keep this one just so we can at least deal with their first play. We got some draw steps, but sure. Have a Chromox. Elite Spellbinder. I think we just hit this. Hit the turn 1 threat and hope to draw land removal spell. Okay, half the equation there. And if we ever get enough lands to cast Ensnaring Bridge, it should be pretty good. And we can sit behind it until we draw out of this horrible situation. So we have 2 of them. They're going to need 2 of their Touch of the Spirit Realms. We've got another one of these guys. Because we couldn't afford to have that come in and name Ensnaring Bridge. Or hit the Ensnaring Bridge. I guess we do have 2. I don't know. I feel we just have to counter the first threat, really. There's going to be a Seasoned Dungeoneer. That can probably solo us. Such as the power level. Kataki. Okay. Into your own Chromox. A bold choice, must be said. Play this out. It's a lot easier for me to pay for 1 Ensnaring Bridge than it is for you to pay for a Chromox, because that means you're not really doing anything. The fact they haven't got the initiative yet is giving me a little bit of hope. Okay. Gonna get ourselves Underground Sea. We'll play this out. Yeah, okay. So they're 3 for 1 themselves with Kataki plus the City of Traitors. When this deck doesn't have the initiative, it doesn't feel very good. That's my take on the initiative deck. When it does have initiative, it feels absolute top tier. We got to play the Lotus Petal. Okay, so they have to be playing something this turn off of the Lotus Petal. Oh, Seasoned Dungeoneer. That's the 4-drop they have in their deck. Chalice the Void for 2. Okay. Like, we've already shown that we can win around that. See if we can draw a land. We did not draw a land. That's a little bit annoying. So they have to pay to keep their Chalice alive as well. This feels terrible in their deck. Okay, so they're going to bash us for 2 here. I think we let the bridge die maybe this turn. Sudden Edict. Kind of don't even want to cast this Sudden Edict, because it's really messing with our opponent's resources here. I think we say go. If we need to, we can Sudden Edict our opponent. But we can take a little bit of damage here. Oh, we can't actually Sudden Edict through this because the trigger still hits it. Even though it's split second, triggered ability still go on top of it. So Sudden Edict doesn't actually do anything here. It just means that we're going to have more cards in hand for this Ensnaring Bridge that isn't going to do anything. We need to basically play our Tezzeret and start plussing it. Oof. That's not a good draw. We mulligan to 5. Our opponent's hand is terrible and it's probably going to beat us. It's a little bit sad. Our opponent should not have kept this hand that they've kept, in my opinion. I don't think it's very good. But if they get beaten, if they beat us with it, then fair enough, I suppose. But I think you have to be trying to get more proactive hands than that. Okay, are they playing? They're just trying to build up for a future city. Okay. I do need to cast all my spells into the Chalice though, because I need my Sudden Edicts to... I need my Ensnaring Bridge to be low. I should have cast a Sudden Edict last turn, just so I can get my hand empty. So I might actually lose the game because of that. Not casting things into Chalice earlier. I can't die to this Kataki. I can't do that. A lot of my deck does get hit for Chalice for 2, as it turns out. Lorana of the Third Path. Sure. This is the May, so they don't have to blow up their Chalice. It'd be nice if they did, but... Okay. So we don't have a lot of time now. Sword of the Meek. We just have to start casting these into our opponent's face. They don't do anything because of Chalice. But we need to get them out of our hand for the Ensnaring Bridge. Then we're just going to lose. We drew all 2-drops. Yikes. This is an embarrassing one to lose, to be honest with you. This is probably the single worst hand I've ever seen a white stomping player keep. But I just haven't hit my 4th land. So there's been a recurring theme this league. Has been me having problems either drawing too many lands or not drawing enough. Which is what happens when you play Chalice instead of cantrips. It is not free. Which is why you often see Chalice decks with lots of land, but then that doesn't stop you from getting flooded, like we've been doing on some of the games. I think if we could even out all the land we've drawn in all the games all of the games, we'd be fine. But what is our play to get back in the game? Toxic Deluge for 1. That does it. Or, well, they get to bounce their Lorana of the Third Path if I do that, so it only buys us a turn. What else could we get with that? What other things do we need to draw? Tezzeret doesn't really do it anymore. We've got too many cards for Ensnaring Bridge to work. We need to draw like... yikes, what do we need to draw here? I think it is just a Toxic Deluge, right? Explosives doesn't do it. I think we are probably dead here if we don't draw the Toxic Deluge. And even then, we only have 1 turn. Okay. Please play out an X1. That's all we need you to do. We've got 1 play. We're going to make it. Now, they're probably just going to bounce their creature with Cracker. I don't know why they play their Lotus Petal. You only play the Lotus Petal the turn you're going to cast a spell. So I don't know what they're planning on casting this turn. Sure. I guess the idea was that if the Kataki dies, it's already in play, but what is this? Okay, they're just blinking that so that they can get it back into play next turn. Sure, that's us dead. Alright, a 2-3, that was a bit sad. I feel both of the games we lost against White Stompy, we win most of the time with our opening hands and the way the game's unfolded. Like, we just needed land in both of those games to win, so maybe the decks have more land, although we did get flooded out and lose a previous round, so I'm not sure on that one. Also, the deck we beat, the black-red cool stuff deck, was because they conceded. So the record for this, I think 2-3 is a fair record. I think the the Stompy deck is something we should beat there. So I think 2-3 is fair for this deck. There's some obvious problems with it. You can't really smooth out your draws very effectively, and we don't have 1-drops because we're relying entirely on our 6 Force of Will effects, and against matchups where we're boarding out our Force of Will effects, that becomes a little bit difficult. Obviously, we can cast Chalice off of Ancient Tomb. If we're boarding out Chalice and these sort of things, then we have certainly reduced action, whereas even if we just had cantrips, we could find stuff. But then if you're running cantrips, you're not running Leyline in the Void, and then the deck's going to look quite different. When I say quite different, I mean it's a deck that I'm probably going to build at some point, because I really like Glint-Nest Crane and these other things. Glint-Nest Crane was fine. It missed a couple of times, which is unlikely but possible, which is annoying, but there it is. I think the core shell of this deck is very strong. I think being able to prison your opponent out in certain ways is quite good, and having the counter magic to back up your prison pieces is very good. So if you're against like a reanimator deck and you slam a Leyline in the Void and you've got 8 Force of Wills in your deck, you don't really have to worry about the rest of that game unless they completely shred your hand and then play a Serenity or Show and Tell. And you can play a Witchbane Orb to try and mitigate that. So I think this deck's got a lot of match. I think, weirdly, we probably want more Sword of the Meek Thopter Foundry. I think that combo is surprisingly strong at the moment with so many creature-oriented decks. Being able to just pay 1 to game 1 and get a blocker, I think is actually very strong. Like against the Stompy deck, it can do a lot of work. Against, there's still people playing goblins and things, so you can get lots of little guys out there. Anyone who's trying to sort of get little pieces into you, if you can get this up and running against Delver, then you're just going to have an endless stream of things that can block Murktide and then eventually swarm it. So you're definitely going to see me play Thopter Foundry Sword at some point again on this channel for sure. I do like that combo. I'm definitely going to be playing some sort of Tezzeret deck again. And I'm probably going to be playing Glint-Nest Crane again because somebody has to. Look at the art, it's lovely. But yeah, I think the deck needs updating because this is quite close to how it used to be. So it used to be a little bit different with more lands but had wastelands. It also had Wasteland Crucible lock and didn't have Force of Negations in. I'm trying to remember the rest of the list. We weren't playing Leyline Helm combo in it before either. So we sort of freed up, let's move these out of the way, into the card advantage slot. So we weren't playing these before, and these weren't, I don't think these were even out when I was last playing this deck. So we had these slots which gave us some wastelands, and it gave us the Crucible of Worlds. That kind of helped the land count, and they'd be business lands as well. And I think we also had a few other spicy ones in it, like Mindlock Orb we had. So we didn't actually have any fetch lands in that particular list. And we were running the Mindlock Orb, and I think we had a main deck Witchbane Orb to find as well. So we had a bit more. I think we might have also had one more Thopter Foundry, I can't remember. But we had different configuration back in the day, and this was me trying to update it a little bit because Leyline in the Void is just really good in the meta now, although we only really played against one deck where it was actually good this whole league, which is kind of unusual, to be honest. You normally expect to find Reanimators and Delver decks and things like that and various Uro-y type things, but we only really fought against one deck that actually used its graveyard quite a bit, I would say. But yeah, I felt like some of the losses we got were quite tight margins. Sideboard wise, I think the removal suite needs a little bit more work. Maybe we need some 1-drop removals when we're boarding out Chalice. That's a possibility. Lots of ensnaring bridges. I think a 4th ensnaring bridge might be too many because they're 3 mana cards, so you're upping your curve, which means it's harder to empty your hand for the ensnaring bridge in the first place. So that might be worth thinking about. The explosives was okay. Yeah, I think this deck has the potential to be good, but it needs quite a lot of work. So if you've got any ideas and little tweaks and things, please leave them in the comments. I'd like to check them out and see what you think and how you change things around. And also, you know, if you want to like my video, that helps. And since we're here plugging ourselves, why not subscribe? If you like my content, it's free to subscribe, and it's the best way of helping out at the moment until I can get over 1,000 followers or subscribers even. All right, I think we're done for today. I hope you enjoyed seeing something a bit wild and a bit different. It's obviously pretty rough and ready, but hopefully it will spark some joy and ideas in some of you people. All right, thank you very much for watching, and good night.